The school assembly was like any other. Students shuffled into the auditorium, half asleep, while teachers tried to maintain order. The principal stood at the podium, droning on about upcoming exams and the importance of discipline. No one was paying attention. Then, the doors at the back of the auditorium slammed open. Everyone turned. A tall, imposing figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the sunlight streaming in from outside. The figure stepped forward, and gasps filled the room. It was an alien, a Deathworlder. The Deathworlder was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Their skin was a deep, metallic gray, with faint patterns that shimmered like stars. Their eyes glowed a soft blue, and their movements were smooth but deliberate, like a predator stalking its prey. The room fell silent. The Deathworlder walked down the aisle, their heavy boots echoing with each step. Students shrank back in their seats, unsure whether to be terrified or fascinated. The principal froze, his mouth hanging open. When the Deathworlder reached the stage, they turned to face the crowd. For a moment, they said nothing, their glowing eyes scanning the room. Then, in a deep, resonant voice that seemed to vibrate through the air, they spoke. "I declare today. Bring your pet to school day." The words hung in the air, unexpected and absurd. Bring your pet to school day? What did that even mean? The students exchanged confused glances. Some laughed nervously. Others whispered to each other, trying to make sense of what was happening. The Deathworlder continued, their tone firm but not unkind. "You will bring your pets tomorrow. All of them. This is not a request." Before anyone could react, the Deathworlder turned and walked out of the auditorium, leaving behind a room full of stunned faces. The principal tried to regain control, stammering something about following school rules, but no one was listening. As the students filed out of the auditorium, one boy lingered behind. He was small for his age, with messy hair and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. He had been sitting near the front, close enough to notice something strange. When the Deathworlder had spoken, their voice had wavered, just for a moment. And their glowing eyes had flickered, as if they were hiding something. The boy couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this announcement than met the eye. He decided to keep an eye on the Deathworlder. Something big was about to happen, and he didn't want to miss it. The next day, the school was buzzing with excitement and confusion. Students had brought their pets, just as the Deathworlder had demanded. Dogs barked, cats meowed, and even a few exotic animals like parrots and lizards added to the chaos. The hallways were filled with laughter and the occasional shout as teachers tried to maintain order. But amidst the noise, the boy with the glasses, let's call him Alex, was focused on one thing, the Deathworlder. Alex had spent the entire night thinking about the strange announcement. Why would an alien from a distant planet care about pets? And why had they chosen this school, of all places? There had to be more to the story. He spotted the Deathworlder standing in the corner of the playground, watching the students and their pets with an intensity that made Alex uneasy. The alien's glowing eyes seemed to take in every detail, as if they were studying something important. Alex decided to approach them. He took a deep breath, adjusted his glasses, and walked over. Excuse me," he said, his voice trembling slightly. The Deathworlder turned to look at him. Up close, their metallic skin seemed to shimmer even more, and their glowing eyes were both mesmerizing and intimidating. "Yes," the Deathworlder replied, their deep voice calm but firm. "Why did you do this?" Alex asked, gesturing to the chaos around them. "Why bring your pet to school day?" For a moment, the Deathworlder didn't answer. They looked at Alex as if deciding whether to trust him. Then, they sighed, a sound that was surprisingly human. "On my planet," the Deathworlder began, "pets are rare. They are seen as a luxury, something only the strongest can afford. But they are more than that. They are companions. Protectors. Teachers." Alex frowned. Teachers? The Deathworlder nodded. Yes. On my world, survival is a daily battle. The environment is harsh, and danger is everywhere. But those who bond with animals, they learn things that cannot be taught in schools. Loyalty. Courage. Empathy. These are the qualities that keep us alive. Alex listened, fascinated. So, you came here to learn about pets? The Deathworlder's eyes flickered, and for a moment, Alex thought he saw something like sadness in them. Not just to learn, the Deathworlder said quietly. To understand. My planet, it is gone. Destroyed. We failed to protect it because we forgot the lessons that animals could teach us. I came here to make sure the same thing does not happen to your world. Alex's eyes widened. Your planet was destroyed? How? The Deathworlder hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. That is a story for another time, they said finally. For now, watch and learn. There is more to this day than you realize. Before Alex could ask more questions, the Deathworlder walked away, leaving him standing there with a head full of thoughts. As the day went on, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. He noticed small details that others missed, the way the Deathworlder seemed to linger near certain pets, the way their eyes glowed brighter when a student showed kindness to their animal. And then there was the bird. One of the students had brought a large, colorful parrot. It was perched on her shoulder, squawking loudly. But every time the Deathworlder passed by, the bird fell silent, its head tilting as if it sensed something the humans couldn't. Alex decided to keep a closer eye on the parrot. He had a feeling it was connected to whatever the Deathworlder was hiding. The school had never seen a day like this. Dogs wagged their tails in the hallways, cats lounged on desks, and even a few more unusual pets, like a rabbit in a harness and a snake coiled around its owner's arm, added to the spectacle. The air was filled with barks, meows, and the occasional squawk from the colorful parrot perched on a girl's shoulder. For the students, it was a day of fun and laughter. But for Alex, it was a day of observation. He had brought his own pet, a scruffy little dog named Max. Max was loyal and smart, but today, even he seemed a bit overwhelmed by the chaos. Alex kept Max close, using him as an excuse to move around the school and keep an eye on the Deathworlder. The Deathworlder moved through the crowds like a shadow, their glowing eyes scanning the students and their pets. They didn't interact much, but when they did, it was always meaningful. Alex noticed how the Deathworlder would stop to watch a student playing fetch with their dog or gently stroking their cat. Each time, their expression softened, just for a moment, before they moved on. One of the teachers, Mr. Harris, was not amused. He was a tall, stern man who believed in order and discipline. The chaos of Pet Day was driving him crazy. This is ridiculous. Mr. Harris muttered as he tried to shoo a dog away from his classroom door. Pets don't belong in schools. What was that alien thinking? Alex overheard him and couldn't help but feel a little defensive. He had started to see the Deathworlder in a different light after their conversation the day before. Maybe they're trying to teach us something, Alex said quietly. Mr. Harris snorted. Teach us what? How to make a mess. Before Alex could respond, a loud squawk interrupted them. It was the parrot. The girl who owned it, let's call her Lily, was standing nearby, looking embarrassed. Sorry, Lily said, stroking the parrot's feathers. He gets excited around new people. The parrot tilted its head, its bright eyes fixed on the Deathworlder, who had just walked into the hallway. For a moment, the bird and the alien locked eyes. Then, the parrot let out a series of strange, almost melodic sounds. The Deathworlder froze. Their glowing eyes widened, and for the first time, Alex saw something like surprise on their face. What is it saying? Alex asked, stepping closer. The Deathworlder didn't answer immediately. They seemed to be listening intently to the parrot's sounds. Finally, they said, "It is a message from my world." Alex's heart skipped a beat. A message? What does it mean? The Deathworlder hesitated, their eyes flickering. It is a warning. And a reminder. Before Alex could ask more, the Deathworlder turned and walked away, leaving him and Lily staring after them in confusion. What was that about? Lily asked, her parrot now silent and still. I don't know, Alex admitted. But I think it's important. As the day went on, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. The Deathworlder's reaction to the parrot had been too intense to ignore. And then there was Max. Alex's dog had been acting strange all day. He kept sniffing the air and whining softly, as if he sensed something Alex couldn't. At one point, Max even growled at a shadow in the corner of the hallway, a shadow that seemed to move on its own. By the end of the day, Alex was more determined than ever to figure out what was going on. He decided to talk to Lily and see if she knew anything about her parrot's strange behavior. But before he could, the school bell rang, signaling the end of the day. As the students gathered their pets and headed home, Alex noticed the Deathworlder standing by the school gates, watching them leave. Their glowing eyes met his, and for a moment, Alex felt a chill run down his spine. Something was coming. He could feel it. The next day, Alex arrived at school early, determined to talk to Lily about her parrot. He found her sitting under a tree in the schoolyard, the colorful bird perched on her shoulder. Hey, Alex said, approaching cautiously. Can I talk to you for a minute? Lily looked up and smiled. Sure. What's up? Alex sat down beside her and glanced at the parrot. Your bird, it did something weird yesterday. It made those sounds, and the Deathworlder said it was a message. Do you know what that was about? Lily frowned. I don't know. Polly's always been a bit strange, but yesterday was different. It was like he was trying to tell the Deathworlder something. Polly? Alex asked, raising an eyebrow. Lily laughed. Yeah, I know it's a cliché name for a parrot, but it suits him. Alex smiled, but his mind was still on the mystery. Do you think Polly could? I don't know, sense something? Something about the Deathworlder? Lily shrugged. Maybe. Animals are smarter than we think. But why would the Deathworlder care about a parrot? I don't know, Alex admitted. But I think it's connected to why they're here. They said their planet was destroyed because they forgot the lessons animals could teach them. Maybe Polly knows something we don't. Lily looked thoughtful. So, what do we do? We investigate, Alex said firmly. We need to find out more about the Deathworlder and why they're really here. The two of them spent the rest of the morning gathering information. They talked to other students who had brought pets, asking if they'd noticed anything unusual. Most of them just laughed and said it was all part of the fun, but a few mentioned strange things, like their pets acting nervous or alert around the Deathworlder. By lunchtime, Alex and Lily had a list of clues. The Deathworlder seemed particularly interested in pets that showed loyalty or bravery. Polly the parrot had spoken in a way that the Deathworlder understood. Several pets had acted strangely around the Deathworlder, as if they sensed something. It's like the pets know something we don't, Lily said as they sat in the cafeteria, Polly perched on the table beside her. Exactly, Alex agreed. But what? Before they could discuss further, Mr. Harris walked into the cafeteria. He looked even more annoyed than usual, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on Alex and Lily. You too, he said, striding over. I need to talk to you. Alex and Lily exchanged nervous glances. What about? Alex asked. About this. Pet day nonsense, Mr. Harris said, crossing his arms. I've been hearing rumors that you're asking questions about the Deathworlder. Is that true? Alex hesitated, but Lily spoke up. We're just curious. Isn't that what school is for? Learning new things? Mr. Harris narrowed his eyes. Curiosity is one thing. Meddling in things you don't understand is another. That Deathworlder is dangerous. You should stay away from them. Why? Alex asked. What do you know about them? For a moment, Mr. Harris looked like he was about to say something. Then he shook his head. Just stay out of it. Trust me, you don't want to get involved. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Alex and Lily even more confused. What was that about? Lily whispered. I don't know, Alex said, his mind racing. But I think Mr. Harris knows something. Maybe he's part of this too. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Alex and Lily kept an eye on the Deathworlder, but they didn't see anything unusual, until the final bell rang. As the students were leaving, Alex noticed the Deathworlder standing near the school gates again. This time, they weren't alone. Mr. Harris was there too, talking to them in hushed tones. Alex and Lily hid behind a tree, watching closely. They couldn't hear what was being said, but the body language was clear. Mr. Harris was angry, and the Deathworlder was calm but firm. Then, something unexpected happened. Polly, who had been quiet all day, suddenly let out a loud squawk. Both the Deathworlder and Mr. Harris turned to look in their direction. Alex and Lily ducked behind the tree, their hearts pounding. We need to be more careful, Alex whispered. If Mr. Harris is involved, this is bigger than we thought. Lily nodded, her eyes wide. What do we do now? Alex took a deep breath. We keep digging. But we have to be smart about it. If the Deathworlder is hiding something, we need to find out what it is, before it's too late. That evening, Alex couldn't stop thinking about what he and Lily had seen. Mr. Harris talking to the Deathworlder, Polly's strange behavior, and the way the Deathworlder had reacted to the parrot sounds, it all pointed to something bigger. But what? The next morning, Alex arrived at school early again, hoping to talk to Lily before classes started. He found her in the library, flipping through a book about animal behavior. Polly was perched on the back of her chair, preening his feathers. Any luck? Alex asked, sitting down beside her. Lily shook her head. Not really. But I did find something interesting. Did you know that some animals can sense things humans can't? Like earthquakes or storms before they happen? Alex nodded. Yeah, I've heard that. Do you think that's what Polly's doing? Sensing something about the Deathworlder? Maybe, Lily said. But it's more than that. The Deathworlder said Polly's sounds were a message. What if animals have a way of communicating that we don't understand? Before Alex could respond, the library door opened, and the Deathworlder walked in. Alex and Lily froze. The Deathworlder rarely interacted with students outside of Pet Day, and their presence in the library was unexpected. The Deathworlder approached their table, their glowing eyes fixed on Polly. The parrot tilted its head and let out a soft chirp. You are curious, the Deathworlder said, their deep voice echoing in the quiet library. That is good. Curiosity leads to understanding. Alex swallowed hard. We just want to know why you're here. What's so important about pets? The Deathworlder studied them for a moment, then sighed. Very well. I will tell you more, but you must promise to keep it to yourselves. Not everyone is ready to hear the truth. Alex and Lily exchanged glances, then nodded. The Deathworlder sat down across from them, their metallic skin shimmering under the library lights. On my planet, we were once like you. We lived in harmony with nature, learning from the animals around us. But as we grew more advanced, we forgot those lessons. We saw animals as tools, not teachers. And in the end, it destroyed us. What happened? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Our planet became unbalanced, the Deathworlder explained. The environment turned against us. The animals we had ignored tried to warn us, but we did not listen. By the time we realized our mistake, it was too late. Our world was gone. Alex felt a lump in his throat. So you came here to, what? Save us? To remind you, the Deathworlder said. Your bond with animals is special. It teaches you empathy, courage, and loyalty, qualities that my people forgot. If you lose that bond, you risk the same fate. Lily looked down at Polly, who was now resting on her shoulder. Is that why Polly's been acting strange? Because he knows something? The Deathworlder nodded. Animals are more connected to the natural world than humans. They sense things you cannot. Your parrot, he carries a message from my world. A warning, and a hope. What kind of warning? Alex asked. The Deathworlder hesitated. There are forces at work that you do not yet understand. Forces that seek to destroy the bond between humans and animals. If they succeed, your world will suffer the same fate as mine. Alex's mind raced. Is that why Mr. Harris is involved? Is he part of those forces? The Deathworlder's eyes flickered. Your teacher, he is not what he seems. But he is not the true enemy. There are others, more dangerous, who are watching. You must be careful. Before Alex or Lily could ask more questions, the library door opened again, and Mr. Harris walked in. What's going on here? He demanded, his eyes narrowing as he saw the Deathworlder. The Deathworlder stood up, their expression unreadable. We were just having a conversation. Is that a problem? Mr. Harris glared at them. You know it is. Stay away from the students. The Deathworlder didn't respond. They simply turned and walked out of the library, leaving Alex and Lily staring after them. Mr. Harris turned to the two of them. I told you to stay out of this. Why can't you listen? Alex stood up, his heart pounding. Because we deserve to know the truth. What are you hiding? For a moment, Mr. Harris looked like he was about to explode. Then he took a deep breath and said, You don't understand. This isn't a game. If you keep digging, you're going to get hurt. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Alex and Lily more confused than ever. What do we do now? Lily asked, her voice trembling. Alex clenched his fists. We keep going. If the Deathworlder's right, then this is bigger than all of us. We can't just sit back and do nothing. Lily nodded, her determination matching his. Then let's find out the truth. Together. The next few days were tense. Alex and Lily continued their investigation, but they were careful to avoid Mr. Harris. They spent hours in the library, researching animal behavior and trying to decode the message Polly had given the Deathworlder. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't figure it out. Meanwhile, the Deathworlder kept their distance, only appearing during pet day activities. They watched the students and their pets with the same intensity as before, but now Alex noticed something else in their glowing eyes, a sense of urgency. Then, one afternoon, everything changed. It started during a science class. The students were working on a group project when the lights flickered. At first, no one thought much of it. But then the ground began to shake. Earthquake, someone shouted. The students panicked, scrambling under desks and tables. Alex grabbed Max, who was whimpering and pressing close to his legs. Lily held on to Polly, who was flapping his wings wildly. The shaking grew stronger, and the sound of cracking walls filled the air. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the lights went out, plunging the room into darkness. We need to get out of here. Alex yelled over the noise. The students and teachers rushed toward the exits, but the hallway was blocked by fallen debris. The school was crumbling around them, and there was no clear way out. In the chaos, Alex noticed something strange. Max was pulling at his sleeve, trying to lead him in a different direction. "What is it, boy?" Alex asked, his voice shaking. Max barked and tugged harder. Alex hesitated, then decided to trust his dog. "Follow me," he shouted to the others. Max led them through a side hallway that was still intact. The group followed, their pets close behind. Polly flew ahead, squawking as if to guide them. As they turned a corner, they ran into the Deathworlder. "This way," the Deathworlder said, their voice calm but firm. "Hurry." The Deathworlder led them through a series of twists and turns, avoiding the worst of the damage. Finally, they reached an exit and burst outside, just as part of the school collapsed behind them. The students and teachers stood in the yard, gasping for breath and staring at the ruined building. "Is everyone okay?" Mr. Harris asked, his face pale. The group nodded, though many were shaken and bruised. Alex looked around, counting heads. "Where's Lily?" His heart sank when he realized she wasn't with them. "She was right behind me," Alex said, his voice rising in panic. Before anyone could stop him, he ran back toward the school, Max at his heels. "Alex, no!" Mr. Harris shouted, but it was too late. Inside, the building was unstable, with debris blocking the hallways. Alex called Lily's name, but there was no answer. Then, Max barked and ran ahead, leading Alex to a classroom that was partially collapsed. Inside, he found Lily trapped under a fallen beam. "Alex!" Lily cried, relief flooding her face. Alex rushed to her side, trying to lift the beam, but it was too heavy. "I can't move it." Max barked again, and this time, Polly flew in, squawking loudly. "Hold on," Alex said, an idea forming. He grabbed a piece of broken wood and used it as a lever, pushing with all his strength. Slowly, the beam began to move. With one final push, Alex freed Lily. She scrambled to her feet, wincing but otherwise unhurt. "Let's get out of here," Alex said, grabbing her hand. They ran back through the hallways, Max and Polly leading the way. Just as they reached the exit, the ceiling above them groaned ominously. "Jump!" Alex shouted, pulling Lily forward. They leaped outside just as the ceiling collapsed behind them. The others rushed over, helping them to their feet. "You're crazy," Lily said, her voice trembling but her eyes filled with gratitude. Alex grinned weakly. "I couldn't leave you." The Deathworlder stepped forward, their glowing eyes filled with something like pride. "You see now," they said. "The bond between humans and animals is powerful. It saved you today." Mr. Harris looked stunned. I don't understand." The Deathworlder turned to him. "You have doubted me, but now you have seen the truth. Animals are not just pets. They are teachers, protectors, and friends. If you forget that, you risk losing everything." For the first time, Mr. Harris didn't argue. He looked at the students and their pets, his expression softening. Maybe you're right," he admitted. The group stood in silence, the weight of what had just happened sinking in. Then, Polly let out a loud squawk, breaking the tension. Everyone laughed, the sound a welcome relief after the chaos. But as Alex looked at the ruined school, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The days following the earthquake were chaotic. The school was closed for repairs, and the students were sent home. But Alex couldn't relax. He kept thinking about what the Deathworlder had said, about the forces that sought to destroy the bond between humans and animals. He decided to visit Lily to discuss their next steps. When he arrived at her house, he found her in the backyard, playing with Polly. "We need to figure out what's going on," Alex said as soon as he sat down. "The Deathworlder said there are others out there, more dangerous than we can imagine. We can't just sit around and wait for something to happen." Lily nodded, her expression serious. "I've been thinking the same thing. But what can we do? We're just kids." "We're not just kids," Alex said firmly. "We've already proven that. We saved you, didn't we?" Lily smiled faintly. "Yeah, we did. But this feels bigger. If there's really a rival faction out there, how do we fight them?" Before Alex could answer, Polly let out a loud squawk. The parrot flapped his wings and flew to the fence, where he perched and stared into the distance. "What's wrong with him?" Alex asked. Lily frowned. "I don't know. He's been acting strange all morning." As they watched, Polly suddenly took off, flying toward the woods behind Lily's house. "Polly, come back," Lily called, but the parrot didn't listen. Alex and Lily exchanged a glance, then ran after him. The woods were dense, with tall trees blocking most of the sunlight. Polly led them deeper and deeper, until they reached a small clearing. Alex and Lily knew they didn't have much time. The rival aliens had made their threat clear, and the Deathworlder was weakened. They needed to act fast. The next morning, they went to Mr. Harris's house. He answered the door, looking surprised to see them. "What are you two doing here?" he asked, his tone sharp but not unkind. "We need to talk," Alex said. "It's about the Deathworlder." Mr. Harris hesitated, then sighed and stepped aside. "Come in." Inside, they sat in the living room, and Alex and Lily explained everything: the rival aliens, the Deathworlder's warning, and the importance of protecting the bond between humans and animals. Mr. Harris listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When they finished, he leaned back in his chair and rubbed his temples. "I knew this day would come," he said finally. "I just didn't think it would involve kids." "What do you mean?" Lily asked. Mr. Harris looked at them, his eyes filled with a mix of regret and determination. "I've known about the Deathworlder for a long time. And I've known about the rival faction too. They've been watching Earth for years, waiting for the right moment to strike." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Alex asked. "Because no one would believe me," Mr. Harris said. "And because I thought I could handle it on my own. But I was wrong. The Deathworlder was right, this is bigger than any one person." "So you'll help us?" Lily asked hopefully. Mr. Harris nodded. "I'll help. But we need a plan. And we need to act fast." The three of them spent the next few hours coming up with a strategy. They decided to use the school as a base. It was familiar territory, and the Deathworlder had already shown that they could navigate it well. That evening, they gathered at the school. The Deathworlder was there, looking stronger than before but still not at full power. "Thank you," the Deathworlder said when Mr. Harris arrived. "I knew you would come." Mr. Harris nodded. "Let's just get this over with." As night fell, the group prepared for the confrontation. They set up traps and barriers around the school, using whatever they could find: desks, chairs, even Max and Polly were part of the plan. Then, they waited. It didn't take long. Just after midnight, the rival aliens arrived. They moved silently, their red eyes glowing in the darkness. "This ends now," the leader of the rival faction said, their voice cold and menacing. The Deathworlder stepped forward, their glowing blue eyes meeting the rival aliens' red ones. "It does. But not the way you think." The rival aliens attacked, their crackling energy filling the air. But the group was ready. Mr. Harris activated the traps, slowing the rival aliens down. Alex and Lily used their knowledge of the school to lead them into dead ends. And Max and Polly worked together to create distractions, barking and squawking to confuse the enemy. The Deathworlder fought bravely, using their knowledge of the rival aliens' tactics to outmaneuver them. But the rival aliens were strong, and the battle was fierce. At one point, the leader of the rival faction cornered Alex and Lily. You think you can stop us? They sneered. You're just children. But before they could attack, Max leaped forward, barking fiercely. The rival alien hesitated, and that was all the time Alex and Lily needed. They pushed a desk into the alien, knocking them off balance. The Deathworlder arrived just in time, using their energy to disarm the rival alien. It's over, the Deathworlder said, their voice firm. The rival aliens, realizing they were outnumbered and outsmarted, retreated. This isn't the end, their leader said as they disappeared into the night. We will return. When the dust settled, the group stood together, exhausted but victorious. We did it, Lily said, her voice filled with relief. For now, Mr. Harris said. But they'll be back. We need to be ready. The Deathworlder nodded. You have proven that the bond between humans and animals is stronger than they realize. But the fight is not over. You must continue to protect that bond, no matter what. Alex looked at Max, who was wagging his tail happily, and then at Polly, who was perched on Lily's shoulder. We will, he said. Together. The days after the battle were quiet but filled with a sense of purpose. The school was repaired, and life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such an extraordinary event. Alex, Lily, and Mr. Harris became closer, united by their shared experience. They worked together to spread the Deathworlder's message, organizing events and workshops to teach others about the importance of the bond between humans and animals. The Deathworlder, though still recovering, stayed on Earth for a while longer. They spent their time observing and learning, often joining Alex and Lily as they visited animal shelters or spoke to students about their experiences. One evening, as the sun set over the schoolyard, the group gathered for a final meeting. The Deathworlder had decided it was time to leave. I must return to my people, the Deathworlder said, their glowing eyes filled with a mix of sadness and hope. But I leave knowing that this world is in good hands. Alex felt a lump in his throat. Will we ever see you again? The Deathworlder smiled, a rare, human-like expression. Perhaps. The universe is vast, but connections like ours are not easily broken. Lily stepped forward, holding Polly in her arms. Thank you, she said. For everything. The Deathworlder nodded. Thank you. You have reminded me of what it means to be strong, not through power, but through compassion and courage. Mr. Harris cleared his throat, his usual stern expression softened. You've taught us a lot too. About trust, about working together. And about the importance of protecting what matters most. The Deathworlder placed a hand on Mr. Harris's shoulder. You have a good heart. Do not let fear or doubt cloud it. As the group said their goodbyes, Max barked and wagged his tail, as if he understood what was happening. Polly squawked softly, his bright eyes fixed on the Deathworlder. Take care of them, the Deathworlder said, looking at the animals. And let them take care of you. With that, the Deathworlder turned and walked away, their metallic skin shimmering in the fading light. They disappeared into the distance, leaving behind a sense of peace and purpose. The group stood in silence for a moment, then Alex spoke. We'll keep spreading the message. We'll make sure everyone understands how important this is. Lily nodded. And we'll keep learning from our pets. They've taught us so much already. Mr. Harris smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. You kids have taught me a lot too. About courage, about trust. And about the power of working together. As they walked back to the school, the sky filled with stars, Alex felt a sense of hope. The bond between humans and animals was stronger than ever, and he knew that as long as they protected it, they could face any challenge. The story of the Deathworlder and Bring Your Pet to School Day became a legend, passed down through the years. It reminded everyone of the importance of empathy, courage, and the connections that make life meaningful. And as Alex looked at Max, who trotted happily beside him, he knew that the lessons they had learned would stay with them forever.